There's design, and what kind of design beyond our comprehension. But you have to you have to learn God's revelation and Torah and the laws and know that. And your time should be in loving God and loving God's creatures and helping them. And if a guy is just for himself, that's no good. He can't say, and this is if there's a person who needs help, and the halacha is the Kohen Gadol has to leave the inner sanctum, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, if he's the only one who can bury a mace mitzvah, somebody who has nobody else to care for him. The Kohen Gadol is not allowed to touch but not when there's somebody else. He has to go out from the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And so that means anybody who somebody has to be attended to, has to be fed, has to be clothed. You got to leave your learning and go help them. And come back to your learning. That's, a chesed. And the learning Pirkei Avos on three things the world stands. Torah, on learning Torah, Avodah, davening, doing kind acts. So anyway, so the end is that we have that explanation that God takes the time to go, and he called all three of them, Moshe, the three, they were siblings, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. After she had this puzzlement about why Moshe left his wife, prophets are married and can be intimate with their spouses and have to be in. That's a mitzvah. But Moshe was made an exception. And God told them why Moshe is an exception. That you can learn in the commentaries why because Moshe was and God says the difference in the Torah. There's a parsha that says that and Jews right after God says that Moshe is Onam Nikol Odom al Pnei Adama. Ish Moshe Onam Nikol Odom al Pnei Adama. Moshe Rabbeinu was the humblest man in the creation that ever was. And he wasn't a false, modest person, humble. So how could he knew he's the only one who spoke to God, person face to face, and all these revelations. And so how could he not? He knows he's the holiest man, the most perfect man. How could he be the humblest man at the same time? The answer is Moses says, the holiness was given to me, extra central perception, and I was given that. If anybody was given to begin with the sensitivity that I was given by God, they do a better job than I. I mean, older people than me. And again, I'm holy because I was made holy. I was so, and that's how a person has to be about their talents. That I was given this talent of speaking, oratory, writing, that's the talent I was given. So I have to use it in the service of God. And think that if somebody would have given anybody else who has this talent would do better than me. And that's why Moshe was the humblest of all men that ever lived. Because Having all the sensitivity about God and talking to God and being the leader, but still, that's how God starts his monologue with Aaron and Miriam, and the consequences of Miriam talking against her brother, and she was just talking in defense of her sister-in-law, and she was a sensitive person, but Moshe doesn't do anything by himself. Does what he's told. And God told him that. And God told him how Moshe is different. He is believed in my whole house. God says, read that chapter in the Chumash about last week. Anyway, so now there were 70 prophets to help with the leading of the people in the desert. Okay, we'll do some Shelach. That's this week's Parsha. I just, want to close with that. That was what we were learning last week, and I didn't finish it, is who were the 70 people that were chosen? They were the people who gave their life. They gave their bodies. They were the overseers of the Jews to make them get them to bring the quota of bricks that they had made, even though they weren't given the straw to make it. And the Jews came and complained to Moshe. That you're coming to us, made it worse for us. And God told Moshe, and God turned to Moshe turned to God and said, "Why did you do so badly to your people? Why did you send me? They're angry at me. They said I made it worse than making it better." And God told him, "Hey, I told you that Paro is not going to want to send. I told you that. And that it's not going to be immediate, the redemption from Egypt, but you'll see. And the end will be that Pharaoh will come running to you and say, leave. And the people will go out in a grand manner. And there will be it's hard to understand that. He took them out. And now the Egyptians made that, well, what do we do? Letting out this cheap labor. There were enough Egyptians and tanks, 600 tanks or chariots of fire that they had men, and they were going to get the Jews and bring them back to Egypt. And the Jews feared they have a raging sea in front of them. They have the Egyptians pursuing them, and they were scared. And it's well known that there were many of them who said, let's surrender and go back to Egypt. And Moshe told them, believe in God. This is the last you're going to see of the Egyptians. And God caused a great miracle of the splitting of the seas for the Jews. And when the Egyptians ran after them into the water, and the Jews were already on the other side, they were all out. They walked through on dry land. Boom! The dry land was no more, and the waves in the ocean drowned all of Pharaoh's men, and not one was left. Midrash says that Pharaoh himself was the one that was left, and he saw the hand of God. And the Jews saw it, and Miriam had a punishment for talking negatively about her brother Moshe. And what was the punishment? She became a leper. And so she had to be quarantined for a week. So if she was quarantined for a week and Jews wouldn't go, the cloud wouldn't move them. They wouldn't go. They waited. They have 3 million people had to wait for one lady. And that one of the things in the 6 things that a Jew has to remember is remember what God did to Miriam in the desert. And that she was so great that the whole people couldn't go while she was quarantined. The Jews had to be another week in the desert and not camp out because until Miriam got rid of the leprosy, it was taken off of her. And that's what God wants you to do. According to the regular pshat, there is that to remember that even a person like Miriam shouldn't talk Lashon Hara bad about anybody and give them the benefit of the doubt. And she should have given Moshe the benefit of the doubt. And that's even the highest Neviah, woman prophetess. She was stricken with leprosy because she talked bad about her brother. So therefore, nobody don't talk bad about it. The only time you can say something bad about is you go to him and you have it out who's right or who's wrong in front of a judge. And if you got something about to tell, take the person to a court. And then the judge will let him say his case. Maybe you got it wrong. So then you can tell it to the judge. And the judge will say who's right. And you had no right to believe that that this your colleague did something bad. He explained it to you right now, and you shouldn't have talked bad about it, and you shouldn't have run to anybody else. The judge, and you have something that will deal with the legality of it. You can't go tell somebody else; they can't do anything about it. And just for saying bad about a person, no, hold yourself back. And that's what is even a highest person of Nevi'ah like Miriam was stricken because she talked Lashon Hara. So anybody less than Miriam, of course, don't talk Lashon Hara. But this one of them, portion, I've got to see it in I think the Hassan Sofer says that God wasn't bad mouthing Miriam. Remember what she did, and you have to remember what God did to her. What did God do to her? He made the whole Jewish people wait a whole week until Miriam could go, and her penalty was over. That's because the greatness of Miriam. Anyway, so let's now start with Shelach. We got what time do we have? It's okay. We have another 35 minutes. So let's get into Shelach. So I'm starting from the beginning, and this Midrash starts with halacha. What's the law? Mahu ifrosh liyam hagadol koydem l'shabbos shloisha yomi. Can you leave on a ship to go over the ocean before Shabbos? Can you go within 3 days? On Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Can you go on Wednesday already? Or no, you're going to Europe. You're going to be on the water right before Shabbos. So this topic was taken up. Shanu Rabosenu, our rabbis taught. Ein mafligin b'sfina b'yam ha'gadol. You don't go in the ocean on a ship. Shlosha yamin kaidem Shabbos. You can go on Tuesday, but not Wednesday. In the Midrash, he's going over the sea, and you can be on the ship on Shabbos, but that's if you got out on 4 days before, with some chance that you might make it before Shabbos. There's an exception. So you can't go if you're going to a place which the ship may not reach it. There's nothing wrong with being on a ship, but the ship, if there's a chance that it's not going to reach the place that he wants to go, so you don't take a over ocean trip 3 days before Shabbos. But if it's a little journey, if a little travel, you're not going far. Avo im mevakesh lifrosh kemo mitzor mitzayden. But if he wants to go from Tyre to Sidon, they were on the same coast. He could get there in a couple hours. Why? It's something that you could go while it's still there on Friday. So Abu Imevakesh Lifrosh Afilu Be'erev Shabbos. If he wants to go to Kamot Mitzur Litzido, cities that were close to each other on the coast, and the ship could go from one coast to the other coast, and it's close, and it could get there before Shabbos. Then there, everybody knows, and so he won't be talked about that. Hey, he got out on a ship Erev Shabbos. Maybe he's going to. It's a couple-hour trip, not a couple days trip. Now, This whole thing is talking about the Shliach Rishus. If somebody's getting on for a leisurely travel, and it's not obligatory. He could, therefore, he could go on Tuesday. Ve'im haya shliach mitzvah. If he had to, he was somebody who was sent to do something that could save a Jewish community, or bring a lot of funding to a Jewish community, or to do something, a shliach mitzvah. Then he can get on the ship whenever he wants, except on Shabbos. But any day before Shabbos. Lama mipnei shehu shliach mitzvah. He's going to do a mitzvah. No, there's so many examples of going to do a mitzvah. He's a doctor, and he's the only one who can save somebody who needs his type of his profession, his area in medicine, so he can go on. He's a shliach mitzvah. And Neshu Shliach Mitzvah. B'Shliach Mitzvah, Doche Es Shabbos. A Shliach Mitzvah, that, to do, you could even, if somebody has to be taken to the hospital, you can drive them there on Shabbos. If a fire has to be made to save a person, to give them something hot to drink, and it's pekuach nefesh. He's in danger. You can heat the water. You can drive the guy to the hospital. There's and it keeping the Shabbos, the saving of a life is a higher. Now people can make up all kinds of, well, that's why I have to go to work on Shabbos, because I have to feed my family. You have to have faith in God, and there were so many Jews when they first came here that they davened in the shul in the morning, and they went to work. But there were those Jews who wouldn't go to work on Shabbos. They lost their jobs, but they had faith in God, and they got other jobs, and they became wealthy. So you have to have faith in God. My father, of blessed memory, never worked on Shabbos. He was a car salesman, and that's the best time for a car salesman is Shabbos. But he wouldn't work, and he exchanged. He would work on Sunday for a non-Jew who. The Sunday is his holy day. My father worked on that day because it wasn't his holy day. My father's holy day is Shabbos. So we had this exchange. And the non-Jew worked on Shabbos. And my father did one Jew in the whole company, Midrash, and he was a top salesman for 30 years. But never on Shabbos. I told you the story about somebody calling him up and saying to him, in 1932, in the time of the Depression, and nobody was buying cars, and somebody called him up and said, Louis, I need 3 cars and come in tomorrow. And this call is made on Friday afternoon. And we'll work it out together, and I'll buy 3 cars from you. And my father answered him a famous answer. This was made known what my father answered. My father said, Willie, if you would want and you would buy for me 100 cars, I'm not coming in on Shabbos. So that was something that people have to build. A lot of people who didn't keep Shabbos turned around. You read so many inspiring stories of people who came and learned about the holiness of Shabbos, and they turned their whole lives around. Thousands, tens of thousands. After they didn't keep Shabbos part of their life, but when they changed, it's wiped off their chart that they didn't keep Shabbos before. Once they started to keep Shabbos, and there's so many like that. Okay, so for a Shiach mitzvah though, the Shabbos he's exempt from being Shomer Shabbos, which would not let him do the mitzvah. And this is a mitzvah that saving people's lives. Mutter lo lifrosh b'chol yom. He can a Shiach mitzvah. He's going to any day he wants to. Lama, why? Midnei hu shliach mitzvah. That's why he can go anytime he wants on the ship. Now, the whole thing of not going on a ship is Rabbanan. Being on a ship is not like you're not driving the ship. It's not like driving a car or a truck. Being on a ship, you have a room. You can keep Shabbos in the room. But the rabbis forbade it only if you go on a day when there's a possibility of you're not having to be on the ship Shabbos. Anyway, that's not the main purpose of telling this, but what the Midrash wants to tell us is the greatness of a Shliach mitzvah. And a similar thing we know about you have a mitzvah. B'chein ato moiseh b'sukkah. You have a similar law. Sheshaninu sheshlucha mitzvah p'turi min ha'sukkah. Somebody's got to go someplace urgently for a mitzvah. Doesn't have to sit in a sukkah. But this, the whole sukkah, you can't eat a meal outside the sukkah. Unless it's impossible to eat it in the sukkah because it's raining cats and dogs. So then you can eat it at home. But otherwise, you got to sit and you got to sit to have your meals in the sukkah. So it says, but somebody who has to go on a mitzvah doesn't have to have his meal in a sukkah. He's traveling, he's going, it's hard to build a sukkah and take on the things when you're traveling. And you're traveling for a mitzvah, you're going for a leisure trip or to visit the family, then you can't leave because you're not going to have a sukkah, so you can take the trip later when it's not sukkahs. But if you're going for the purpose of a mitzvah, you don't have to eat your meals in a sukkah. You can eat in the car, and you could eat in the hotel. If you have a kosher hotel or you have your own meal, you could eat it in a hotel. if you're going a far way to help somebody out in that only you can, like I told you, the example of a doctor. Okay, so on Sukkot, Shluchei Mitzvah Peturim Mina Sukkah. Those who are going to do a mitzvah, they are patur. That means they are free or exempt from having to be in a sukkah. Today's sukkah sellers came up with a terrific idea that, even say a sukkah mitzvah, somebody's got to be in the hospital with somebody. And there's no sukkah in the hospital. I had to be with my wife on sukkahs, and there's such a thing called a pop-up sukkah. You can put it up right away. And it has bamboo stock, and I have that. I have to be under the sky, but there was a patio in the burn unit of the sukkah, and Jonathan Dyer remembers this very well because he took me down into the sukkah, and there was a sukkah standing there, and we used it. So a pop-up sukkah, it had room for one person. We had a little table there, and I ate my meals in the sukkah. I was doing the mitzvah. I was making my wife feel better. And I stayed there the whole time she was in the hospital. And I had a sukkah. Anyway, but anybody driving to have a pop-up sukkah takes 10 minutes maybe to put it up. So even though he's potter, but he wants the mitzvah. So the solution is not a whole big sukkah. You have a little sukkah with a bamboo mat that is kosher, and the sides are cloth, and they have to be withstand the wind. But it's but shluchei mitzvah peturim min sukkah. Somebody who's on a journey to do a mitzvah is exempt from the sukkah. There's nothing so dear and important before the Holy One, blessed be He, Shliach, like a Shliach Shemistala Lasses mitzvah, like a Jew who was sent to do a mitzvah. The Noise Nafshay, he's willing to give his life to fulfill the mitzvah. Today say Tzliach, that he should be successful in it. He will do anything. He won't let any obstacle stand in his way from getting to this person who needs his help. He can save his life. He's going to give his life to. He puts himself in danger. He's got to get these funds to a community that's in danger. So there's nothing she'ein lo chaviv lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, nothing is as dear before God, the Holy One, blessed be He, Shliach, like a Shliach shemistalech, that was sent Lasses mitzvah, b'noisei nafsho, and he gives his life today. Yitzlach, that he should be successful with Shlichuso. Ve'ein lacha ben Adam, shenistalchu asais mitzvah, b'noisei nafsham la'atzliach b'shlichusam, ke'osam shnayim, she'asholach Yehoshua ben Nun. And that's and that's why they're talking about it now, the Ma'av Torah of this. In our story, I mean, in the Parsha, the 12 tribes wanted, and they came to Moshe and they say, let us send spies, from one from each tribe, and we want to know what kind of country that we're going to face in battle. And, are they brave or are they wimps? Are the cities fortified or are they open? And read the Parsha. And this is the substance of the Parsha, is that these guys, they were kosher, they were observant, but they didn't want to go to Eretz Yisrael. And Hasidus explained, you know why they didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael? Because they had it good in the desert. They had manna from heaven, a brook, a stream following them for water. Their clothes grew with them, and they were clean from a secretion coming out of this clouds. They had everything. They could sit and learn and babble the whole day. What do they got to go to Israel for? So they came back. The majority, there were 12 spies. And 10 of the 12 came back, and they had agreements amongst each other to give a bad report that the Jews didn't want to go, and Moshe would not be able to bring them in, and that they should fight the Canaanites, their land, and hey, God told them, and they want to know if it was a good, fruitful country. And God said, "What it's a land of milk and honey, and the perfect country." And God told them, "This, what do you need to send spies to see if it's a good country?" And look at the miracles that God did against the Egyptians. When you battled with the Egyptians, you won because God won. You were scared, and what were you scared of? You see that God's working for you, and it worked for you here. And when they got real scared, when the Egyptians were running after them, and there was a sea in front of them, and the sea opened for them, and they were saved from the tanks, the 600 chariots, and battle champions who were in the chariots, and they were saved. That all these guys drowned in the sea. So when God is just testing you, how are you going to respond to the situation? And there were two, Joshua from the tribe of Ephraim and Caleb from the tribe of Judah, who came back with a good report. And they tried to get the Jews not to become faint-hearted, not to listen to their colleagues who brought back a bad report. And that kept them in the desert another 38 years. And when they were about to go in to Canaan, Eretz Yisrael, this time Moshe, rather Yoshua, sent spies, 2 spies, and Pinchas, who was a Kohen, it was He was a Navi and Kolev. And it says, and we're talking about Shluchim. You want to see real Shluchim? Forget about the Shluchim in the Parsha. It speaks about the 12, because 10 of them were no good. Just Yoshua and Kolev were good. And now Yeshua was the later, so he wasn't going to be able to go in. I mean, he has to be involved with taking care of the people. But he said to Shluchim, this was it. He wanted to know how the battle, the best way to fight the battle. And so he sent two Shluchim. He sent Vayishlach Yehoshua ben Nun, Yeshua, who was the leader, the Moshe's successor, Mina Shittim, when they were camped already in on the other side, but they weren't confronted by the Canaanites. He sent two shluchim. Mihayo. Who are these shluchim? Shanu Rabbi Seinu. Our rabbis learned who were the two shluchim that Yoshua sent after the Jews spent 40 years in the desert, because the previous shluchim, the great majority, were no good. They wanted to stay in Israel, and they wanted to stay in the desert and not go into Israel, because they wanted to have the utopian existence that they had in the desert, and they could be spiritual and learn and daven, which is a wonderful thing. But God wanted them to go into Israel and plow and plant and make Israel a holy place. And by them being example that despite they had to plow and plant and do agricultural work, they had plenty of time left to study Torah and to pray. And that turns the physical into the spiritual. That was God's idea. And to bring them in right away to start this kind of life. But they blew it because of the in this parsha. They blew it because they said Lashon Hara on the land of Israel. These two were very good, and the Midrash is going to tell us. מי היו שני שנו רבותינו, who were they? Ela Pinchas v'Kolev. Hey, this is Kolev's second tribe. This is Pinchas and Kolev. The whole Chuvin Nasnu Nafsham, they were ready to give. This is a physical world, and they put themselves in danger. You know, unfortunately, with somebody who tried to stop the Jews from making making the golden calf, and there was one Jew there. It was Miriam's grandson, Achur, and grandson. But anyhow, he was killed. Why was he killed? I mean, God witnessed this whole thing. God could have saved him, but that his time was up. But I'm just saying this because it says here that that they were ready to give their life for their tzlacha in this shlichus. see what the land was, and if they could physically, without miracles, if they could beat the Egyptians, the Canaanites, and what kind of land it was. They went and they were ready to they knew it was dangerous. Boy, if there were only two, and if the Canaanites knew so they're Jewish spies, oh, they would kill them. And they were ready, and they got to do their mission. They believed that I would not let them kill them, they did the job. They were ready. If we're going to be killed, we'll be killed. Well, they had big faith that they wouldn't be killed. But anyhow, they gave the tight here, the Nosnu Nafsham. They gave their souls. They were into it, not in condition that they should be have miracles if they get caught. And it says, they were successful. They got a good report. They saw what the land was, and it says, Shluchei Cheresh. Mahu Cheresh. What does it mean? The Cheresh. So the main translation of the word Cheresh, which described what kind of shluchim there were, is secret. Spies. But Cheresh can also means a earthenware. It's called Cheresh. Hey, and it's called Cheresh. And this was their tactic. What was their success? How could they see the whole country and be certain that they would never catch on that they're spies? Melame she'asu aswan kadorin. They made themselves like pottery salesmen. While you swashing, and they yelled out, they called out, Hare Kaderos. It says in Joshua that they were Shiluch Cheresh, which means secret spies, but Cheresh also means pottery. So that was their method, that were to hide themselves, is to make themselves pottery salesmen. Anybody who wants it, they have the product with them. To come and buy Coca-Cola. Nobody. Why did they go and say these two spies? We're pottery salesmen, and you want pottery? Come and we'll sell you. So nobody would charge them for spying. Pottery salesmen don't spy. Anybody wants to come and buy. Coca-Cola, why do they go do it like that? Shelo yardish behem adam. That people shouldn't catch on that they were spies. The word for secret is cheresh, with a the difference between a sheen and a seen. A sheen has a dot on the first part of the letter, Shin, and Sin is on the leftmost part. And that would read, one reads Cheresh with a Shin, which means secretive, and Cheresh with a dot on the left wing is pottery. And so that would Joshua advised them to come in as a pottery salesman. כדי שלא יאמרו בני אדם שהם מרגלים. Because nobody should catch on and say, hey, these guys are spies. וילכו ויבואו בית איש הזוינה. They came to the hotel of Isha Zona. Now, Zona could have two meanings. It could be a woman who runs a hotel. He said they came to Vayoko Vayavo base Isha Zaina. That hey, the word mazon means food, and a hotel you give food. And so she was a person, Isha Zaina, that she was amazing. She was Zon. Hazan Esako. God is Zon, and that means feeding. So she was a feeder to people. That's one meaning of Zaina. But the other meaning isn't such a happy one. It isn't such a, it means a harlot. And this Rachel, she's mentioned amongst the most beautiful women in history. And the Gemara says they're the four most beautiful women in history. Chava was one, the first woman, and Sarah was one, and but this Rachel was one. So I know I always get, I can't exactly remember who was the third, but this she was one of the most beautiful, and she had a hotel with 31 rooms, and every one of the 31 nation that lived in Israel, each king of a nation had a room in that hotel. You know, there were 31 rooms for the kings. There are more rooms also. But this was, and they all had a room in that hotel of Rachav. And obviously, they came to be close to Rachav. This is where Zona, this Harla. And these two spies came to her, but she saw them because and Kolev, and they were holy men. And she was very impressed by their holiness, and she related to it. And she saved these guys, as we'll see here, when there was suspicion. And they slept there. Vayishku Shama, Amda Vichibon. She received them, even though she detected that they were spies. Vihirgish, Bohem, Melech Yericho. But the country was very guarded. If anybody came in, across the border, hey, these it was miraculous, but they crossed the border, and the king of Yericho suspected these guys, these two, that they're spies. Everybody who came in had to be registered at the border, like now. And Bishama Sheba'u Achfor Esra'aret, the king heard that they came to spy the land. And Shinamar Vayemer Melech Yericho Lamar. It was told to the king of Yericho that the spies running around in this, they caught on. They saw them when they crossed the river. So she had to hide them. She did a quick thing. The king sent police to get these guys. Keep it to election. The king sent men to bring them to him and to execute them. Ma also saw Rachab. What did Rachab do? Not also Latminam. She took them upstairs on the rope to hide them. Pinchas and Koli. Amala Pinchas, Ani Kohen. Hey, Pinchas was a Kohen. God made him a Kohen, even though he wasn't when the Kohanim were born. He wasn't even a baby then. But nonetheless, God told him, Pinchas got, even though he was from the tribe, but he wasn't given the Kohuna. But God then, his giving, his doing what he did to kill the man and woman who were fornicating and shouldn't have been the head of the tribe of Shimon. And you have to read, that's a story in and of itself. But Pinchas, it was a plague, people were dying. And this is when Bilam gave advice that they should trot out the Canaanites and all their daughters, and they should seduce the Jewish men. And so Pinchas was one of these guys, and I told you in the beginning that she was very impressed with them. And she wanted to hide them though. She had to quickly, and she went up and she wanted to hide them amongst the pillars of flax. And he told her, "Hey, you don't have to hide me. Ma Asisa Rachab, what she do? Not la usam latminam. She took them to find them. So let's hide them. Amale Pinchas says, "Ani Kohen, I'm a Kohen." And the Kohanim Nimshavu Malachim. The Kohanim are likened to angels, and angels can make themselves invisible. Shenemar, brings a pasuk that shows that Kohanim are likened to angels. Kisifsei Kohen Yishmeru Das. The mouths of Kohanim of a Kohen will keep the faith, the knowledge. The Torah Yivakshu Mipiu. And you can therefore go to a Kohen and ask him, Torah, teach me Torah, answer me this question in Torah. And God says in his pasuk, he say Kohen, the lips of a Kohen, Yishmeru Das, they will keep the knowledge of Torah. Therefore, the Torah Yivakshu Mipiu. You can go up to a Kohen and assume that he's learned. Imal Hashem Tzvaisu. God calls the Kohen. He's an angel of God. So you see that the Kohanim are called angels. And you know what about an angel? V'amalach mevakesh nira. If the malach wants to be seen, he's seen. Mevakesh, if he wants, ain't nira, not to be seen. He's not seen. He can make himself invisible. So Pinchas was a Kohen said to Rachav, you don't have to exert yourself to hide me, because the police are never I'm gonna make myself invisible. Kohanim can do that because Malachim can do that. When's the last time you saw a Malach? And so now we hear that Kohanim are likened to Malachim and can make themselves invisible. How do we know that the prophets are also likened to Malachim? Shekain Nira Shekain Hu Omer B'Moshe. Moshe says, it says about Moshe, when the narration about Moshe taking the Jews out of Egypt, says, Vayishlach Malach v'yotzanu miMitzrayim. God sent an angel and he took us out of Egypt. So you see, Moshe was a Navi. He was the greatest Navi. But you see, the Navi are called Malachim also. So therefore he told her that you don't have to hide me. Who were they talking about when the narrative says, and that's the narrator in Torah, Vayishlach Malach in Bamidbar a little further. Vayishlach Malach Vayishlach Mitzrayim, God sent an angel and took us out of Egypt. Hey, what do you mean an angel? Hello, Moshe. The message was Moshe. Hello, Mikan, Shenimshu, Anevim, Kimalachim, that the Nevi'im are likened to angels. It's 8:45. Okay, I have to wish you all a good Shabbos, and I have to go to shul. Thank you for being good listeners. And who did we have on? We had on Jonathan and Dr. and Joel and Moshe Lifshitz.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
All
wonderful.
the best. And we'll we'll continue with this time, but I have to go to shul, but we got it in our time, and thanks to my grandson this time. Ryan taught him what to do, and he did it. Okay, a very good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.